Hello. Welcome to Klonoa, Door to Phantomile, All Visions. This is a category in which we are mostly going to be playing through the game normally, except we are going to be collecting a bunch of trapped Phantomilian prisoners, which are mostly imprisoned in bubbles like that one that I just freed. That will be the first of 72 of them. Now, you may be wondering why they look like symbols in bubbles that turn into little people, rather than little people trapped in bubbles, which is what they canonically are. And believe it or not, we actually recently got a fairly satisfactory answer to that question, which I had long assumed was just sort of a design decision, but in one of the leaked prototypes of the game that was leaked only relatively recently, there was some unused art found of actually one of the character sprites trapped inside one of the bubbles, and it looks very unsettling. So I can only imagine that that's why the decision was made to change them to just these symbols, and I just messed up a little trick there because this platform is a troll. You want to jump off the platform and beat a cycle there. But unfortunately, the way the animation works, you can very easily get a little stutter step that just happens sort of automatically when you land on it. Only makes a difference of roughly 5 seconds, so it's not a big deal. And just like that, we have collected the 6th Phantomilian in this stage, and we are well on our way to a lot of the much more interesting glitches that we're going to be seeing going forward. Starting right in Vision 1-2, there's quite a few weird glitches and sequence breaks that we're going to do, starting almost immediately. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this enemy and squish it through this little gap here, which we're not supposed to be able to do. And the way we do that is actually quite elaborate, and I'll get into that later into the run. But first I'm going to explain some of the basic mechanics, which are these enemies. There we freed a prisoner trapped in one of those eggs. So we're picking up these enemies, and you either throw the enemies or you use them to double jump. And that's going to be the main mechanic that we are using, aside from the basic shooting, running, jumping that Klonoa can do on his own. So Klonoa's shooting does essentially nothing but pick up enemies and break the bubbles. It does not break the eggs, so that's one of the immediate reasons why you need to throw enemies, but there are a lot of other obstacles and enemies that can only be defeated by throwing these basic enemies at them. And there's an example of a double jump that I just did with one of the enemies there. That's not the first one we've done, of course, but it's the first one that I kind of explicitly called out. Those clocks are checkpoints. I'm saving that one for after I free this Phantomilian, because there is a very good chance that I'm going to die doing an extremely difficult trick that's coming up in just a moment. So if I get sent back to that checkpoint, I do not want to have to recollect that Phantomilian. Can't get that checkpoint because I need this enemy to attempt this trick. So what I'm doing here is storing Klonoa's position, his vertical position, and then I am going to try and fall out of bounds in a specific way. Oh, I missed the Phantomilian I was trying to break there, but I teleported back up, which is good because it means I didn't die. Unfortunately, now I have to collect the Phantomilian in the normal way here. So I would have saved all this traversal with that trick that I just did, but I narrowly missed it by a few pixels, unfortunately, but you still saw the basic idea. So I grabbed the enemy in that wind current. The wind currents are glitched in a very specific way that allows you to do that glitch. You can't generally do that. We are going to see one more instance of it that will hopefully be a bit more fruitful in terms of saving time than that one was. But nonetheless, you got to see the idea behind it, and it didn't send us way back, so we didn't lose too much time. We are right into the first boss now. And this is an example of where you need to throw enemies in order to defeat an enemy. The boss can only be hit by throwing enemies at it. The normal shooting mechanic does absolutely nothing. Just damage boosting a lot to make the boss slightly more efficient. The damage boost strat, it turns out, actually doesn't save more than, I think, 5 to 10 seconds. If you do the fight normally but very optimally, you can still do it pretty quickly, but it's still definitely worth going for. There's a slightly more consistent way too, but it's got a lot of weird frame perfect hits, so I like that one. That's a bit more random. So now we're already in Vision 2, Vision 2-1 to be exact, and there's a lot of cycles in here, so I'm going to try and go for a very optimal cycle here. There's a lot of randomness here with these spike balls, so this can go very wrong, but so far it's going pretty well. Want to get on that leaf, which we did. Break that egg. Whoops, and I narrowly missed a cycle there. I could have hopped off that leaf, but we're doing just fine. We got the second cycle. It was just a little bit too slow getting to that leaf to get the perfect And it looks like we are back. All we missed was a little door clip. I'm going to unpause my timer. So now I'm going to collect this Phantomile. I'm actually probably going to be way off cycle here, unfortunately, because I stopped moving before I paused. Actually, no, maybe we're fine. Yeah, we're good. Caught a tight cycle there. Whoops, missed a tight cycle there, but that's fine. Almost died there, still fine, everything's fine, nothing bad is happening. We have made it through the level without dying successfully. And that is a slightly longer than usual Vision 2.1, and we are now on to Vision 2.2, which is another very cycle-based one. It's interesting, there's a mix of very cycle-based and less cycle-based levels in this game, which is one of the things that makes it so much fun. This is definitely one of the most cycle-based, although most of the cycles aren't super difficult, although in this category they're quite a bit harder. That is a surprisingly tricky intended jump to get that Phantomile up there. New runners very frequently miss that. The timing is just very specific and not super intuitive. Very tight cycle I'm going to go for here. Perfect. I'm going to try another wall clip here. Oops, well, we're going to let this drum push us into the wall too. Snipe that Phantomile on the way there. Grab that Moo on another very tight cycle. All in service of catching that cycle to get up there. That was actually a puzzle that we skipped. Puzzle, I use that term loosely. It's not exactly a difficult puzzle, but still it takes time, and skipping it's a very nice thing to do. And this section just flows quite nicely. Here's a relatively new trick I'm going to show off. I'm going to snipe one of the Phantomilions that we're supposed to get from a side path, but instead we're just going to grab an enemy like that and then manipulate the camera. That's why I ran backwards and then snipe it off in the foreground just like that. So as you can probably tell, I haven't explicitly mentioned it, but this is a 2.5D game, which means that the motion is restricted to what we call two-dimensional planes, but the logic and world is 3D, so there are instances where we throw enemies into the foreground and background. I just clipped through another wall there. We're gonna go straight into the next boss now, which is Pamela, one of the most difficult bosses to learn. And honestly, one of the most difficult bosses to execute as well. So we will see how this goes. There's also a lot of randomness to it, so it very much keeps you on your toes. Try and get a nice early hit there by grabbing the King Seedoff, who is the enemy that we're going to be using to throw at Pamela, who is the fish. Seedoff is, as far as I know, the only enemy that you can grab and throw that does not pop. Got another nice quick hit there. That's exactly what we want to see. Now Seedoff has jumped off, which is not quite optimal, but still very, very good Pamela fight there. That's pretty much exactly what you want to happen. Which is good because that little tech issue has put us a little bit behind the pace that I would want to be on. Oh, and I'm split in a weird way. Okay, now we are in Vision 3.1. I would say that this is not as cycle-based as some of the previous ones, but it is stealth cycle-based because there are frame rules that govern how these gondolas lift off, and we're trying to catch an optimal frame rule here. And we will find out if we did in just a bit. I'm going to try and play very precisely. We just missed it, unfortunately. So we had to wait a little while for this gondola to depart. If it had taken off immediately, we would have known we'd caught the optimal frame rule, which would have meant that we were tied with the TAS, at least up to that point. But, alas, did not quite work out for us. Not a big difference in time, but it's still cool to be able to get if you can. I'm gonna try a weird door trick here. Just like that. That's a very obscure trick, different than the other door clips we're about to see. That just involves grabbing the enemy in such a way that a double jump fires off in a way that's not intended, and allows you to move through the door. I'm going to do a traditional door clip in just a moment here, after I free this prisoner down here. So here, this is probably the hardest door clip in the whole game. Not probably, it is the hardest. Oops, that's not quite it. There we go. Not perfect, but quite smooth, which is about what you want to see. Now we're going to do some manipulations that are actually, that used to be the any percent route here. I'm going to kind of try and get this Moo over this bridge. Well, not quite. I'm going to clip him through this door instead. Before we could clip Moos through geometry, that was the any percent route. But that has since been obsoleted by the door clip that we're about to do here, but in order to free that Phantomile in this category, we still need to do that. Use the second hardest door clip. There we go. Now I'm going to attempt to keep this enemy, which is not a thing that you're meant to be able to do through this auto-scroller. So I'm going to do a very specific sequence of movements. And if I am able to do that, I'm going to use the enemy to try and do an extremely difficult and somewhat random feeling trick jump. The success rate on this trick is definitely substantially under 50%, so it is not likely that we will see it work, but I'm going to try and snipe a switch early with a very specific sequence of moves. So I'm going to pause here, jump over this guy, do that jump. Oops, and I didn't quite get the enemy there, unfortunately, so we're going to just do this the normal way. So what I was trying to do is do that double jump, grab the enemy on the way up, which is a very specific timing to it, and then throw it at the switch that we're now going to hit the normal way. So that switch. So what I was trying to do was, with that trick jump, snipe it off to the side here. It's definitely the hardest trick in the whole game, or at least the hardest viable trick that's used in multiple categories. There are obviously some very weird task tricks that are just not even remotely humanly viable, that require sequences of thousands of frame-perfect inputs, and that's not a joke, by the way. But as far as tricks that can actually be done, I think I missed one of the Phantomilians, but that's okay. We're just going to pretend that I got it in that level, and then we will go back for it later. Or perhaps we won't, depending on how we're doing relative to the estimate. With those tech issues, we may be a little bit behind. So this may be a all-ish visions run, which I suppose is a good time to sort of call out why it's called all visions, when what we're really doing is rescuing all the Phantomilians, or perhaps in this case all but one of them. And the reason for that is the purpose of rescuing all of them, aside from being a good citizen, is to unlock the extra vision. And so really that is why this is called All Visions, because we are in fact playing all the visions. Just did another weird door trick there. Gonna try and go for a difficult cycle here. Okay, good. That platforming section can easily kill you, so I'm glad we made it through that successfully, because that would be like a 2-minute time loss, maybe 1.5 minutes if I had just died there. Now we have a checkpoint, so we're safe. Oops, I actually wanted an enemy there. Yeah, I know which Phantomile I missed, so we will, depending on how we're doing on time, go back and rescue that one at the end. I would unfortunately have to replay the level from the start to get to it. I'm just gonna miss a cycle here, so I need to grab an enemy. I should say I need to grab another enemy. Not too much going on in this stage other than just kind of the intended platforming. There is going to be one trick I'm going to go for coming up. I am continuing to do these weird tricks to allow myself to go through these doors while they're opening, which is not an intended mechanic. Normally you have to wait a good 5 seconds for the door to finish opening before you can move again. So skipping those is definitely nice. Okay, now I'm going to go for a fairly obscure trick here. I'm gonna grab this enemy, which wastes a little bit of time, but I'm going to use it, hopefully, to carry under this with a very specific input. Oops, well, I'm gonna ride this platform instead. That's just fine. We get to try it again on this doorway here. There we go. So we've squeezed the enemy in here. And now we can use it to avoid waiting for this swinging platform here. Collect the final Phantomile of this level on these swinging platforms. And we will be on our way. We're going now into the third boss, which is, and I'm going to go for the fastest strat, at least modulo a few slightly safe things I will probably do. This is Galgbalm, and it is a killer of many runs. And also one that can potentially crash the game, but if you know how to avoid it, it's usually not a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna try and time the second hit in a specific way to send the boss back over to the side like this. Grab that enemy, get the hit, send the boss over to the side again. Dodge that pollen attack, which is going the wrong way. Get damage and throw that enemy into the boss just like that. That was a perfect Galg Bomb. It's exactly what you want. And now we are on to Vision 4-1. This one we're going to do quite out of sequence. First we have some nice movement here to navigate this as quickly as possible. And here's the first sequence break. It's not a glitch or anything. It's just clearly not what the game expects you to do. So we're going to jump up here, do this section first. Then we're going to rescue this Phantomile down there. You're supposed to do that just in the other order, but it's obviously faster to do it in a kind of the most geometrically linear order, even though it's not at all intuitive. This is actually all the intended platforming. Just looks a bit weird. Gonna go for a risky damage boost here. Okay, we didn't get the damage boost, but we did not die. The frame window for that is very tight, and if you're late, it just kills you. And now I'm gonna go for a very difficult trick. Oops, well, we're not gonna get the fastest version because I threw that enemy the wrong way, but that's okay. We should be able to go for the backup, which is almost as fast. There we go. Okay, now we have to double back here. I'm going to wait a cycle. Normally I would have just gone for that, but I don't want to risk dying. Or worse, falling all the way back down. Actually, since there's no checkpoints, either one is equally bad. Always have to wait for this cycle because of the way the other cycles line up. So unfortunately, there's no way to skip that one swing of that moving platform. But that's fine. We are through Vision 4-1. And we are on to Vision 4-2. This has another one of the vertical position storage glitches, which we call ultra jumps, because before we knew what was really going on, we thought they were just a huge giant double jump. But in this case, we are going to use it to teleport downwards. So once again, it's going to involve one of the wind currents. We're going to re-grab an enemy in a specific way to store our position at a lower position, and then teleport to that. So just like this, and then there we go, teleporting down, and then just floating back up in the wind current the way we normally would, taking more damage than I would like. Oops. Yeah, I definitely am not in the health situation that I want to be. But if I don't do anything too stupid, we should be fine. I was trying to do a quick grab on those fire enemies, but I didn't quite hit it, so I'm definitely going to get that checkpoint. Nope, I'm going to get that checkpoint, please. Here's basically half an ultra jump to get up to this section a bit faster than doing it the intended way. So there I was re-grabbing the enemy in the wind current and using it to do an extra double jump, but not actually teleporting. Normally I would damage boost here, but I don't want to risk being in the boss on no health. So I'm going to play it a little bit safe. And that was a fairly successful, if a bit safe, Vision 4-2. Here we are in Balladium, the fourth boss of the game. And sort of the halfway point. This is probably the easiest boss in the whole game. In fact, I think almost everyone would agree it is the easiest boss. But the fact that it's common to be in health trouble, and the fact that the attacks are quite random and occasionally very trollish, means that there is some risk of this boss going horribly wrong. Although in this case it seems to be treating us fairly well, not to jinx it. Perfect. Okay, there we go. So we were just hitting those triangles. I probably should have explained this at the beginning, but we had to hit all those triangles. I was throwing enemies at them, breaking them two at a time, making quick work of the boss. finishing it in essentially half the time that you're expected to. And just like that, we are in Vision 5-1. The conceit of this level is we're going to try and collect, in addition to all the Phantomilians, we need to collect 4 orbs. This is the only, well, yeah, I think this is the only level in the game that really gives you a substantial choice about which paths you want to take in which order. And just for fun, I like to do it in a different order every time. There are definitely certain rules you can follow about which order to do that make it slightly more optimal, but within those rules, there's still a lot of flexibility. Gonna do a little damage boost here. I'm gonna grab that Phantomile there. That's one that I often forget. We're gonna go ahead and do red next. One Phantomilian's right there. There's going to be another one along the red path. Cycle manipulation here. Start that platform moving by stepping on it and then grab this enemy. That causes this guy to spawn a bit faster so I can throw it at that bridge, knock it over. That grab I just did is actually very difficult, by the way. Doesn't look like much, but it's quite precise and random feeling. Damage boost there to go through this fire. The fire always damages you in an unfavorable direction, so getting hit by a different enemy is what you want to do here. I'm going to go for one of the most famous original skips from any percent, which is the green orb death warp. I start this platform moving so I can grab this safety checkpoint with no time loss. And then I'm going to carry this enemy back along the green path. So I'm not doing any of what the game expects me to do at this point. I'm completely going backwards, but I'm going to run off the edge here and snipe that checkpoint, or miss that checkpoint. That's unfortunate. We'll do that again. It was a little early there. I'm doing this a riskier way than is often done. You can make it a lot safer if you jump off the edge, but the travel time to fall back down wastes... okay, I'm going to focus a moment. There we go. That's more like it. The travel time to fall back down wastes a second, so it's more fun to do when you just jump off, or when you just run off the edge rather than jumping. Either way, it's very rare to miss it like that. I just threw way too early that time, unfortunately. But because I got the safety checkpoint, it's not a huge deal. Actually, I'm going to take that safety checkpoint too, just in case. Normally, I would use that enemy. I had to double jump up here and save a bit of time, but dying here would be very costly in this case, because I'm going to clip through this wall. Or try to, at least. There we go. Break that egg. And then just run back up here, saving a whole bunch of time in the blue orb. And we are done with Vision 5-2. And we have actually freed all the Phantomilians here. Quite clean, except for that missed checkpoint snipe. And now we have the very cycle-based Vision 5-2. This has a day-night cycle. The mechanics behind it are very obscure. So you'll just have to take my word on whether it's going well or not. Get that switch before it turns night. That's exactly what we want. get this Phantomile in here. Hit that before it finishes turning to night. And now it will be turning day when we walk out here, which is what we want, because that will mean these enemies can be grabbed, used to make this jump that otherwise is impossible. So getting off cycle here wastes a whole lot of time. Good movement there. So coming up, we're going to have the first right wall clip, aside from the door clip that we missed when we were having tech issues, and that one's made a little bit easier due to the geometry, but the one we're going to have coming up next is just going to be a normal door clip, or a normal wall clip. And all the wall clips I've been doing so far, the idea behind them is we are using the enemy's collision, the enemy that Klonoa is carrying. We're exploiting the fact that it functions differently from Klonoa's own collision, and using that fact to cause us to get pushed. It tries to push us back in bounds, but we're going to get pushed further out of bounds. And so if that goes well, we should see that right here. I'm going to do that by making a frame-perfect direction change. Oops, that's not quite it. Let's try that again. Oops, still not quite it. One more try. I'm having a bit of trouble with this. I may do this the intended route. Yeah, okay, we're going to do this the normal way. Just because each time I do that, I'm losing a point of health, which we really don't want to be doing since we are now out of health. We will get another opportunity to see that in Vision 6.2, where I'm going to try a very crazy route. I do not like this health situation we're in right now. Oops, and we're dead. So we're going to do that again. Now that we're back at full health, I might as well try this clip one more time. Oh, I'm really having trouble with this for some reason. There we go. See, there's nothing difficult about it. Alright, there we go. This is going much better. And I was trying to snipe that switch and I completely missed. No big deal, we'll just grab it and keep going. Okay, intentionally going back in that door in order to reset the cycle, which is actually the intended, not the intended route, but the route that we do normally in this stage. And coming up next, I'm going to do, or attempt a trick where we are just going to pull an enemy through a tiny little seam in a cage. Normally we have to do a big sequence of stuff to... Whoops, well, I threw the enemy away, but that's fine. We'll just grab it again. Normally we have to do a big sequence of... we have to hit a big sequence of switches in order to unlock that cage, but there's this tiny little seam, and if you line it up just perfectly... which is easier said than done. You can just pull the enemy right through it like that. Save, I think, 30 seconds or so. Now we are on Joka. This is probably the hardest and riskiest boss in the game, although that is up for some debate. Oops. It also continues the day-night theme from the last level, but it works actually completely differently. It just superficially looks the same. In this case, it's all about when you get the hits. There is a timer involved, but it normally doesn't come into play. It's about when you get the boss down to certain amounts of health and clearing these tiles by stepping on them. So we're doing this very kind of specific zigzag motion while trying to dodge these enemies, which is just kind of the fastest way to step on these tiles. The blue ones obviously need to be stepped on twice, the green ones only once, and we're going to see purple ones coming up next that need to be stepped on 3 times. If you position yourself perfectly near one of these spawning crystals, you can clip into it, but I wasn't quite getting it. It accomplishes absolutely nothing, but it is fun, and there's nothing you can do during that section, so... So here you can see there's green, blue, and purple tiles. And if you saw, I grabbed an enemy right before the transition. If you do that with the right timing, you can prevent one of these invincible enemies from spawning, which is exactly what you want. There we go, now we're inside the crystal. You can pretend that accomplishes a lot, but it does not. Oh, come on, that should have hit. I disagree with the game on that one, but that's fine. We are through Joka. Very clean Joka. Now we are on to Vision 6-1. There's several sequence breaks here. We're going to see most of them. There is one that I'm not going to go for because the cost of failing it is extremely high. It's more than a minute. And the cost of, the benefit of succeeding is less than 5 seconds if you do it absolutely perfectly. So it's very flashy, but it doesn't really accomplish all that much. And because we lost several minutes to tech issue, I am just going to forego that particular trick. Oops, I don't like that position. There we go. Try and snipe this Phantomile in here. Nice. The timing on that's quite specific, so good to not miss that. Whoops. Here is where I would normally do the sequence break, but instead we're just going to use the safe route here, go back. So what I would have done was use a sequence of those blue ghost enemies, which for some reason are called ploums, and damage boost for an alarmingly long period of time in the air, and use it to launch myself over the pillar that I'm about to walk past. And so it basically, like I said, it works out to be just slightly faster than the backtracking that I did there. Just some nice optimized movement here. Oops, that's not what we want. That's more like it. There's a wall clip you can do here. Again, it turns out it doesn't really save time, so I am not going to do it. This wall clip saves a lot of time if I can get it. There we go, just like that. I'm jumping in the air to reduce these particles from spawning. On certain hardware, that is a meaningful lag reduction. On this version of the game, it probably isn't. This is actually a PS2 collection of Namco games. So this is a PS1 game that I'm playing, but I'm playing on what's called Nam Collection, which is a PS2 port of it. It's some very slight port differences, but it's basically the same game. And one of the differences is that the loads are better, which is why we play on it. So it's not clear whether that strategy I was using there even reduces lag at all, but it doesn't hurt. Okay, and here is where I am going to try a never-before-seen route in this level. So this is going to be an adventure. We are experimenting with the possibility of using a route along the lines of what I'm doing. Realistically, the variant that I'm going to try will not save time, but it will be fun, especially if you're kind of familiar with how this game goes casually. So I'm going to break that rescue that Phantomile in there. Take this safety checkpoint here. Get damaged by this enemy so that I grab it against the wall. Oops, I'm not quite far enough in. Oops, we'll try this one more time. There's a real risk of, falling out of bounds here. Oops, I'm not quite close enough to the wall. Alright. This might take a little while. That should do it. We're gonna do a jump here, fly, and then all of a sudden we're over here, which is a completely different part of the level. So I had to go back out that door to spawn these enemies. Now I'm going to use this enemy to do that, break that Phantomile in. We've just skipped a huge chunk of the level, but that also means that we have failed to do a puzzle. I'm going to take an intentional death here to refresh my health. We've also skipped a puzzle that we need to unlock a pillar, which means we're going to have to do a few more wall clips. Doing a very classic skip here. Get damaged here and break this enemy right there. Use it to squish myself above that block. Those blocks are objects that are not clippable, so I have to use that obscure trick with the giant moo. To focus on this puzzle room here because it's very easy to mess this up, but we're through. And now is where we lose a good chunk of the time save that we would have gotten by skipping a huge chunk of the level. Because normally I would want to just run to the next section, but I can't because I never raised that pillar. So I have to grab this enemy. Use it to clip a little bit into this wall. And jump up just like that. Oops, actually I'm going to grab this heart. I'm going to go for a damage boost here. Perfect. That's exactly what you want. So I saved a cycle of waiting for an enemy there. Now with some very careful cycle manipulation here, I should be able to break this enemy early. Just like that. Missed that Phantomile by inches, so we'll do that again. There we go, that's more like it. Clip through this pillar. Just like that. There is a little optimization you can do here, but I don't want to risk it at this point. And under normal circumstances, we would now be done with this level. Or at least done for all practical purposes. But because we never did lift that pillar from the second puzzle room that we skipped, we are going to have to do one last wall clip in order to make up for that. Just like that. And now, we have rescued all 71 Phantomilians. I'm exaggerating because there's 72 and we actually missed one earlier, but we've basically done it. So now we're going to fight Gadius. We're going to pretend that route I did in Vision 6.2 saved a bunch of time and didn't lose almost a minute. Trying to get 4 hits there, just like that. That's exactly what we want to see. You want to get either 4 hits or in the first cycle, or as many as you can in the first 2 cycles. Now we just have to hope these enemies spawn in a way that is, or not spawn, but come at us in a way that is favorable. There we go. Perfect Gadius. That is the best that fight can go. I have always had trouble with that fight in marathons, so actually nailing that is amazing. We are going to back out to the menu for no particular reason. Definitely not loading a save file with all 71 Phantomilians rescued in order to do the extra vision. This is totally normal and how this category always looks. And now we're in the extra vision. Look at this. We've unlocked the extra vision. And this is just crazy, so I'm going to focus. Oops, well, not quite there. It's fine. Oops, someday we'll make it up this first jump. Bit of a rough first room, but hopefully better things to come. Lava is instant death, by the way, so all of these jumps over lava might as well be bottomless pits. Grabbing an enemy there in order to bring it into this next section and save a few frames. First big sequence break of this stage comes here. Perfect. Oops, this room is a troll room. Do we make it up? Yes, okay. It's a little scary. Sequence break there. The hardest sequence of jumps, the hardest intended sequence of jumps in the whole game. You want to grab that enemy in a way that it carries you up a little faster than that. Just a tiny micro optimization, but missing that is no big deal. In fact, it's fairly random. And not a bad extra vision. Not quite what I wanted in terms of that first stream going kind of badly, but other than that, we are pretty good. Gonna go straight to the final vision now. So we have rescued all 72 Phantomilians. We are just now going to defeat the final boss, and that will be it for this run. This final boss has quite a few phases. I will call out when we're on the last phase. I actually lost my train of thought there for a moment, so I'm going to miss an optimal cycle here. Yeah, I didn't position myself correctly to catch a frame rule on that animation there. Not a big deal. Second phase doesn't have too much going on. We're just breaking these crystals. I did take an intentional death there in order to avoid some animation. I actually slightly messed up the timing. Still making quick work of that. Crystals have been broken. Now we're going to have to deal with this one moving crystal. If all goes well, that should be just 2 quick hits here. It's 1, 2, and we are now in the home stretch. Assuming we don't die, there will be almost exactly a minute left of run. All we're going to be doing is trying to fill some cannons, which is also what we were doing in the first phase of the boss. But now the cannons are under us, and we need to double jump in order to get the enemies into them. Boss is just attacking us in a myriad of ways while we're doing this, but when you get used to it, it's not super risky. Down to just 1 cannon. There we go. And that is time. And that's it for me. That was Klonoa, Door to Phantomile, All Visions Asterisk. We rescued 71 of the 72 Phantomilian prisoners, completed the extra vision, defeated the final boss, and we did it all in under 1 hour, modulo the tech issues that cost us about 5 minutes, but we can pretend. And yeah, I guess that's it for me. Thanks so much for having me, and best of luck to the next runner. Actually, I am being told that I could potentially go back and rescue the one I missed, just to have this be a complete run. Depending on how the schedule slip and such goes, I am happy if you cut the feed and move to the next runner, but I'm just going to go for it. Gonna complete vision 3, 2, turn this into a real all visions run. I will just pause the game when I have rescued the one prisoner that we missed. And maybe this will give us a chance to go for that frame rule again. The beginning of this. We will not see the door clips, I don't think, because the one guy we're going back for, unfortunately, I think that cutscene skip I just did with the nice and squishy PlayStation start button is going to be enough to make us miss the frame rule again, but no big deal. Oops, well, if that wasn't, that definitely was. So once again, we wait for this platform to move around. Oops. I was trying to break that enemy on the way up to do the door trick that I did the first time around, but I didn't. Okay, we're coming up on time for real. Because that is the one I missed, if I'm not mistaken. And so that is it. That is the anticlimactic ending to All Visions. We have actually completed the category now. Thank you again for having me. I hope you enjoyed that run. I hope you enjoyed that weird romp we did through Vision 6-2. That is a route that will never be seen again, because it is only faster if you get miraculously lucky, and we will surely figure out a way to optimize it so that it is actually faster. So that is it for me. Good. Best of luck to the next runner, and thank you again.